What happened to female pirates after capture will leave you speechless. Most pirates in history were men. The reason for this is that there was no women's liberation movement back then. So women had few rights and could not do most jobs that men could. They also weren't allowed to be pirates. But every now and then, you would come across a woman who decided to become a pirate anyway. Welcome back everyone to my channel. Today we'll be talking about what happened to female pirates after they were captured. If you like stories of swashbuckling adventurers and daring escapes, then make sure to stay till the end. We have plenty more where that came from. Anne Bonny. Anne Bonny was one of the most famous female pirates of all time. She lived in the early 1700s and was known for her ruthlessness. Bonny was born in Ireland and moved to the Bahamas as a young woman. She married a wealthy landowner, but soon became bored with her life of luxury. She wanted more excitement and an adventure. When she heard about the riches that could be made by capturing ships, she decided to become a pirate. She joined forces with a notorious pirate named 𝐞𝐥𝐸𝐿 Rackham, and together they plundered many ships. At one point, Anne even captained her own ship. Despite her success, Anne was eventually captured by the authorities. She was charged with piracy and sentenced to death. However, she escaped execution by giving birth to twins while in prison. This made her too valuable to execute because the governor at the time wanted her to bear more children for him. In the end, Anne was pardoned by the king and given a noble title, Mary Red. Mary Read was another famous female pirate who lived in the early 1700s. Like Anne Bonny, she was born in England and became a pirate because she was bored with her life. Mary lived as a man for most of her life and fought in battles against the Spanish. She was wounded in one battle and taken prisoner. While in captivity, she met a pirate captain who offered her a place on his ship. After joining the crew, Mary became one of the best fighters on board and eventually took over the ship when the captain was killed. Her crew sailed to the Bahamas where they continued to plunder ships. Eventually, Mary was captured by the British Navy and sentenced to death. She spent 2 years in jail until her sentence was commuted because she gave birth to a child. Mary was released from prison with her son and spent her remaining days as a fortune teller. 𝐞𝐥𝐸𝐿. 𝐞𝐥𝐸𝐿 was a Chinese pirate who lived in the late 1700s. She became the leader of a massive fleet of pirate ships and was responsible for the deaths of thousands of Chinese and British sailors. 𝐞𝐥𝐸𝐿 was born into a wealthy family, but she was forced to marry a poor farmer when her father died and left her an inheritance. She hated her husband and wanted to get back at him for ruining her life. So she turned to piracy. She assembled a fleet of ships and began attacking Chinese and British vessels. One day, 𝐞𝐥𝐸𝐿's fleet encountered a Chinese naval squadron. A battle ensued, and the Chinese were defeated. 𝐞𝐥𝐸𝐿's fleet then landed on an island and massacred everyone on it. She became empress of one of the largest navies in the world, consisting of hundreds of ships and tens of thousands of pirates. Eventually, the Chinese government offered her pirates amnesty, granting her noble titles and granting her fortune beyond her wildest dreams. Gracia Omal. Gracia Omal was a pirate from the Philippines who lived in the early 1800s. She became famous for her attacks on Chinese junks carrying silver. One day, Gracia and her crew attacked a junk and stole 200 chests of silver. She then sailed to China, where she sold the silver for a fortune. After making so much money, Gracia decided to retire from piracy and live as a noblewoman. She bought fine clothes and jewelry and threw lavish parties. She also set up a casino and a brothel. Even though she made a fortune, Gracia was captured by the Chinese authorities and executed. Rachel Wall. Rachel Wall was a female pirate who lived in the early 1800s. She was born in England and became a pirate after being abandoned by her lover. Rachel sailed to the Caribbean where she met a pirate captain named Henry Every. She became his lover, and together they plundered many ships. One day, Rachel and her crew captured a ship carrying a fortune in gold and jewels. She quickly became rich and powerful and was able to buy everything she ever wanted. Even so, Rachel was captured by the British Navy and sentenced to death. She was hanged in Jamaica, but her lover saved her life by bribing the executioner. Henry then disappeared with Rachel and they were never seen again. Elizabeth Post. Elizabeth Post was a female pirate who lived in the early 1800s. She was born in France and became a pirate after her father died and left her an inheritance. Elizabeth used her money to buy a ship and a crew and began attacking Spanish galleons. She was successful at first, but eventually she was captured by the Spanish Navy and executed. Alana. Alana was a female pirate who lived in the early 1800s. She was born in England and became a pirate after being abandoned by her lover. Alana sailed to the Caribbean where she met a pirate captain named Bartholomew Roberts. She became his lover, and together they plundered many ships. One day, Alana and her crew captured a ship carrying a fortune in gold and jewels. She quickly became rich and powerful and was able to buy everything she ever wanted. Eventually, Alana was captured by the British Navy and sentenced to death. She was hanged in Jamaica, but her lover saved her life by bribing the executioner. Alana and Henry then disappeared and were never seen again. 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐻. 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐻 was a French pirate who lived in the early 1600s. She became famous for her attacks on treasure ships carrying gold and silver back to Spain from the Americas. 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐻 and her crew targeted the riches of the Spanish treasure fleets and amassed great fortunes. They operated in the Caribbean and off the coast of Florida and were known for their brutality. Eventually, 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐻 was captured by the Spanish authorities and executed. 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐻 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐻 was a British pirate who lived in the early 1600s. She became famous for her attacks on merchant ships carrying goods to and from Asia. 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐻 and her crew operated in the Indian Ocean and were known for their skill and daring. They would often attack large merchant ships and steal their cargo. Eventually, 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐻 was captured by the Portuguese authorities and executed. 𝐸𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 𝐸𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 was a Chinese pirate who lived in the early 1800s. She became famous for leading a fleet of pirate ships that attacked Chinese and British vessels. 𝐸𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 and her fleet thrived due to her introduction of accounting rules, which may sound contradicting considering that she was a pirate. Her accounting methods were surprisingly effective and helped her to build a vast fortune. Eventually, the Chinese government offered her pirates amnesty, granting her noble titles and granting her fortune beyond her wildest dreams. The Golden Age of Piracy. There are quite a few common misconceptions about the so-called Golden Age of Piracy, which lasted from the 1650s to the 1730s. First of all, only around 5% of pirates were female. It wasn't really a male-dominated field, as people might think today. Secondly, most pirates did not wear eye patches or have parrots on their shoulders. These are just Hollywood inventions that have nothing to do with real-life piracy. And thirdly, most pirates were not actually buried with their treasure. In fact, many pirates didn't even bother to hide their loot at all. They just divided it among themselves and spent it on luxuries like alcohol, tobacco, and women. In conclusion, piracy was a dangerous and risky profession, but it was also exciting and adventurous. Both men and women were pirates, although men vastly outnumbered women. Some pirates were ruthless and violent, while others were cunning and strategic. No matter what their methods were, pirates were always a threat to the shipping industry, and the authorities were always trying to capture them. Today, piracy is still a problem in some parts of the world, but it has never been as widespread or as profitable as it was during the golden age of piracy. Now it's time to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the female pirates we discussed today? Let us know in the comments below. Also, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.